Where's Johnny?
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
So serious.
I am Iron Man.
This is a tasty burger.
Welcome to the In Session Film Podcast.
Welcome to the In Session Film Podcast and this podcast review for December 11th, 2025. I'm Megan Kearns, and I'm here with Shadan Larkey. Hi.
Hello.
I'm so excited that we're together and we're going to be talking. We're filling in for Brendan and JD, and we're going to be talking about Rental Family, the comedy drama from Hikari, her second feature film after 37 seconds. And she also wrote the screenplay with Stephen Blahut. And this stars Brendan Fraser and Takehiro Hira, Mari Yamamoto, Shannon Mahina Gorman, and Akira Imoto. And this had its world premiere at TIFF, and it opened in theaters November 21st. For ratings, it's got an 86% on Rotten Tomatoes out of 140 reviews and 3.9 stars on Letterboxd. And let me give you the synopsis from the Searchlight Pictures press release, and then we will dive in. Set in modern-day Tokyo, Rental Family follows an American actor who struggles to find purpose until he lands an unusual gig, working for a Japanese rental family agency, playing stand-in roles for strangers. As he immerses himself in his clients' worlds, he begins to form genuine bonds that blur the lines between performance and reality. Confronting the moral complexities of his work, he rediscovers purpose, belonging, and the quiet beauty of human connection. All right, so let's start with Brendan Fraser first before we dive into the movie. What are your thoughts on him? How do you feel about him?
Oh, Megan, I'm so glad you asked. What a lovely way to start this conversation. I have loved Brendan Fraser. I was obsessed with George of the Jungle. It's like as I aged, I feel like I went along I loved him in George of the Jungle. I loved the Mummy movies, was obsessed with them. They were on repeat, and it was like one of those things where like my brother and I could watch it together, so that was like a bonding thing. And then I love one of my favorite rom-coms that nobody ever talks about is Blast from the Past with Alicia Silverstone. I love that movie. Like it's such a comfort watch for me. I watch it like yearly. Like I have like a day where I like devote it to. So I love him. And if I could just be obnoxious for 1 second, I met Brendan Fraser. I met Brendan Fraser a couple of years ago, and he was like, it was during the press run for The Whale, and he was just lovely. And I remember like in the interim when he had sort of had a hiatus and was, struggling and going, I was like, I missed him. Like I actively was like, where is he? So to have him back is so wonderful. And, like sometimes I'm the awards editor, so I have to whatever. But sometimes actors, they'll like win Oscars and they kind of go away. And I feel like since his Oscar, he has been back and kind of picking up some interesting roles. So, yeah, I adore him. I think he was wonderful in Rental Family. Yeah, the biggest Brendan Fraser fangirl in the world.
I love that. Okay, well, I'm really glad I started with that question. Because I was like, I feel like you have to talk about him because he was gone for so long. And you're right, it was so sad because he has such a great body of work. I agree with you. I love The Mummy. I love him in The Mummy. I mean, I love him. I also love Rachel Weisz. I love the two of them together. The fact that they're making another Mummy it is just so exciting. It's great. I can't wait. I also love him in With Honors, and there are School Ties, like so many great films. And so to see him come back in his renaissance is lovely. And I agree with you. He's been choosing some interesting roles, and we'll get more into his performance as we talk about that. Actually, you know what? Let's just dive in and talk about it. No, let's back up. I'm too excited. I'm too excited to talk about this. Yes, yeah. But let's talk about our overall thoughts about the film, and I'm sure we'll talk about his performance too, because we have to talk about it. But what do you think about this film overall?
Okay, I'm struggling a little bit because it's like, did I overall enjoy it? Yes, but I think if you want to really pick it apart, there are things to criticize. This is what I struggle with in terms of like my critic brain is like how critical do I want to be? But I think just watching it, like it was a delightful experience. I laughed. I'm not a big crier, so I didn't like weep through it or anything, but I really enjoyed it. And I got to be honest with you, I was lucky enough to see it at TIFF. And, like Hikari was there and she was lovely. She stayed for like 30 minutes, answered every question. Like you could tell how much the film meant to her and how much being at TIFF meant to her. So like, I think that just added to my experience watching the film. So yeah, I think it's just lovely. To me, it felt like a warm cup of tea of a film.
Yeah, I agree with that it feels like a warm cup of tea. But I did cry. I cried a lot in this. But I am a crier. I will cry at the drop of a hat in a movie. So that's not always the measure of its worth just because I'm crying, because sometimes it's just the scenario that the film presents that makes me cry. But I think this is a very tender film. It's really interesting, though, that you say about your critic brain and how much you want to pick it apart, because as I was watching this, I kind of felt that way. I was like, what separates this film from, or does it? Is this film too schmaltzy? Is it too saccharine? It's pulling on all these heartstrings, and as many films do, but I was thinking about that over and over. I was like, is this careening too much into schmaltz territory, too much into being overly sentimental?
Yeah.
And it's something that I'm still kind of grappling with, but I know that I did really enjoy this film, and there are some really beautifully tender and touching moments in this.
And that's the problem, though, for me, Megan. And I say this all the time on Chasing the Gold. I am a very sentimental person. Like, these kinds of things appeal to me. I like films that wear their emotions on their sleeve. I think there's something just, like, really simple and beautiful about that, of, like, this, we're just going to present you with this, and, like, you can do with it what you want. I don't know. I think what I liked about this movie when I look back is I liked that this was the kind of movie that I could have watched 30 years ago. And I think this is the kind of movie that you could make 30 years from now. Like, there's a timelessness to it that I think is really appealing to me. And I liked the sort of like simplicity of it, of like, it's about human beings trying to do their best to move through the world. And I just think that that's a universal thing,
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely tackling tough themes, dealing with loneliness, dealing with aging and mental health, dealing with being a single mom, dealing, with not having a dad around, dealing with death, dealing with purpose in life, dealing with work problems, dealing with, sacrifice compared to going after your dreams. So it definitely exploring a lot of these universal themes. Absolutely. So I agree with you on that it does lend itself to that timeless quality. Let's talk about Brendan Fraser, since we keep talking about him. What do you think of his performance? I know you said that you found it lovely, but I want to hear more about your thoughts on that.
See, I don't know if my like love for Brendan Fraser is also one of the reasons why it like elevated this film for me. You know what I mean? I feel like if it was an actor in it that I was not as emotionally invested in, maybe I would not feel as strongly. But I think because we come into the film, a lot of people with this sort of love for Brendan Fraser, and he's just the kind of guy that you naturally root for. I think that helps this film a lot. And I think one of the things that Brendan Fraser has always done well, even going back to George of the Jungle, is he's like has this really beautiful balance of like leading man energy, but also this like deep vulnerability that comes across in all of his roles. And I think Rental Family does that beautifully, of like, he is this sort of actor guy, but also just like is vulnerable and sad and lost a little bit, and he wants to do the right thing and he doesn't know what that is. And so I think he just hits all of these notes really, really well. I think he's really good. Spoiler alert, he's really good. That's the tagline.
I know, spoiler alert, he's good. I completely agree. I think his vulnerability is his strength, and he has this gentle quality to him that really is powerful here. It's really palpable. It resonates. It's perfect for this character who is extremely lonely and still is grieving the death of his father from a couple years prior. And he's connecting. One of his jobs is to pretend to be a father to this little girl Mia, so he can help her mother get into a school, and he's caught off guard by how much he's attached to her and how much they connect, and it's really beautiful to witness. And he has this gentleness to him. One of my favorite scenes, actually, it is probably my favorite scene in the entire film, is when she gives him her mobile that she built, the octopus mobile that she crafted in art class, and he hangs it up and he blows on it so gently, and then just sits and watches it. It's such a lovely scene, and I love that Hikari had that in the film. I love that Brendan Fraser's performance is so tender, and so, his performance and his likability probably did elevate this film for me, like you, probably like for many people, but I'm not mad at that. Like, it's clearly a filmmaker who's harnessing that ability. And I read this in the press notes, and very much could have been, she might have answered this at TIFF too, because I know you were at the premiere there. But I love that she said that she saw his performance in The Whale and saw him in a Q&A and was so moved by him that she's like, we have to get him for this role. And so,
Mhm.
and I think that's the thing, is that his persona in film, but also probably who he is as a person in real life, spoke to her. And I love that. I think that's incredible. So
And I think you mentioned something really special, which is that Hikari has these moments in the film where she does allow the humanity to come through, like these
yes.
quieter moments where like maybe another filmmaker would have just been like plot point A to plot point B,
Yes, yes.
but she does allow, and it's such a cliche to say like the city is a character in the movie, but I really like these moments where he is sort of walking through the city and taking it all in, and you do kind of feel like you're there, also traveling alone through the city, and there's so much
Yeah.
color. There's a scene where, he takes the little girl to like this cat festival or something, and she's just like
Yes.
riding on his shoulders in this sea of color. And it was like really beautifully shot and interesting to look at.
Yes.
And I think sometimes like these sort of, again, like quieter films, it's not about the filmmaking, it's about the character work. But I felt like there were some really beautiful, like cinematic, moments in the film as
Mhm.
well.
I absolutely agree. I also, speaking of another, I love the cat festival scene. It's so cute. But I also love that scene where they're in that, like, quote unquote fake aquarium, and all of those vivid colors, and they're walking around with the shimmering lights and the colors on their faces, and it's so vivid. And especially, too many films, I feel like, don't know how to light their films, and the color grading is off. So to see a vividly colorful film is exciting. So, it's sometimes it's the little things that aren't really so little. So yeah. So no, I
It
agree with
looked
you.
like a movie. It looked like a movie and not
Yeah,
like, a commercial on TV. I was very
I know.
like, "Oh, color, how lovely to have you back."
I know, we've missed you. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But, like, also speaking, to the point that you made about the city being a character as well, one of the scenes I really loved is early on when, Philip, the character that Brendan Fraser plays, he's looking out the window and he's looking in all these other apartments, and it feels very much to me like a non-sinister Rear Window, where he's like, like peeking in, seeing these like slices of life of everyone, and then normally there'd be this voyeuristic quality, and technically there is, but it doesn't feel like that. It just feels like, oh, I kind of want to see what these people are doing, what these people are doing. And there's just such a moment of shared humanity that's just really lovely.
I had that exact, I was like, "How Hitchcockian." And then it's
Right?
interesting when they're showing, like, Brendan Fraser's, like, commercials that he does.
Yes.
Eh, I love that. There's something I like the blend of like the American coming in. So it's kind of blending these cultures in a really interesting way. And
Hmm.
that's, very much how it is really, like when you're an American and you're like in another country and you're trying to blend what you know, and sort of there's some like kind of lost in translation moments. I thought
Mhm.
all those elements were really, it doesn't necessarily beat you on the head with them, or maybe it does, but I liked it. It worked for me.
Yeah, no, I don't think it beats you over the head with it. I know what you mean. And I mean those little moments are there, those visual markers. But I mean, also I feel like Brendan Fraser stands out because he's so tall and like, being a very tall American, in Tokyo, he's going to stand out and he does. But you know, it works. Yeah, but it does have those moments. But I think it's great, and I really appreciate that the film, even though it shows those moments, it doesn't focus. It's not the focus. The focus isn't like, oh, here's this bumbling American, who, although he is kind of bumbling in the job when he's hired to be at that pretend funeral at first,
Mm-hmm.
where he's like coming late and he's like banging over chairs and things. So that's a little bumbling. But other than that, I feel like it's not so much of him being the awkward American. So yeah,
Well,
so I agree with
Megan,
you.
what did you think of the rental family concept? Because for me, when I was watching the, being, an ignorant American, but when I was watching the, when I was watching the film, I was like, is this real? Like, so I was like, would any of this actually happen at some parts? And then Hikari in the Q&A afterwards was
Yep.
talking about the fact that like these agencies do exist.
Yes.
Um, and so that was really interesting. Do I think there are some parts where you have to suspend your disbelief for the sake of the film? Yes. But yeah, what did you think of like the concept?
Yeah, so I had heard of this concept before, so it wasn't like a shock to me. And then, yes, I also read similarly that Hikari said she is doing research on these agencies, and there are over 300 of them, which is just wild that there are that many. But yeah, it's funny because I had a very similar reaction. Despite this being the premise of the film, I had a very similar reaction to Philip when he initially learns about it. I was like, oh, why would you want something so fake? That's not real, that's fake. I don't get it. The only time I kind of, I guess, get it is there are nonprofit groups, there are groups that will have people stand in for family members like in queer weddings, and so that makes sense to me. As a queer person, I'm like, oh, that I get. If your family or a certain family member's not there for you, that makes sense that you'd want someone to like walk you down the aisle or do a dance with you, that type of thing. So I get that on one hand, but then some of the assignments they had and some of the jobs, I'm like, this is just no, like why? Yeah, so I think I'm coming at it from that angle of like this doesn't make any sense to me. But I like that the film tackles it head on because I love that Philip's like, well, why wouldn't you just go to therapy? Like some of the issues that the clients are
Mm-hmm.
having. And, then talking about, well, mental health is very stigmatized here and there just isn't the access to it.
Mm.
So then it's like, okay, well, if you don't have the access to that, what are you going to do? You got to make it work. So, yeah, so I think I have personally very conflicting feelings on it. But I think the film does a really intriguing job of exploring that concept and the pros and cons of it. But what do you think about it?
No, I totally agree with you. I think in scenarios where it's like one day or maybe you never see that person again, that makes
Yes.
sense to me.
Yes.
Where I started struggling with it was like, and I'm not trying to mom shame anybody, but like the fact that he was like taking this little girl on like excursions, I'm like, would that actually
Yes.
happen like without her mom there? That just seemed very strange to me.
Right.
Because I was like,
Right.
she doesn't know this man. Like, she literally hired this man from an agency. Like, I don't think any mom would actually do that. Am I crazy? Like, again, I'm not trying to shame anybody. Like, that's not what I'm. I'm just like watching the movie. I was like, what? Like, I don't.
I don't think you're crazy because I kept thinking that too. I was like, wait, they only need him to pretend to be the dad so they can get into the school. Why not just tell the daughter, hey, this guy's going to pretend to be your dad? Like, why do, like, I didn't understand the whole ruse of, well, this is your dad and okay, now he's gone. Like that just feels meaner in a way. Like that feels like opening up another wound, you know? She opens up to him and they have this beautiful, lovely bond, which is great for the narrative of the story. But then it's taken away. And I'm like, wait, but if the mom had just been honest from the start, this wouldn't have happened. And it just feels like the whole kind of sitcom element of it where it's like, oh, if you just were honest, there wouldn't be a movie or there wouldn't be a conflict here. So maybe that's the reason that is in there. So it's not realistic. But yeah, I kept thinking that too. I'm like, who's letting their child go with this stranger? And why are you not telling your child? Like, yeah, it was very, very strange to me as well. So yeah. But since we're talking about the clients, what did you think about some of the other jobs that they had, like the apology infidelity ones and some of the other ones?
See, that makes sense to me. That one was the one that actually
That
really
makes sense.
did make, because I was like, it makes sense that you would want your spouse to have somebody to be angry at. Like if they
Yeah.
took it out on another person. And I'm not saying again, like from a human, I'm like, that's not fair to that person, obviously.
Right,
And to your point, like they did do a good job of explaining like when you have to take these roles, like what does it do to your own mental health? And
Mhm.
how much of your mental health do you have to sacrifice for your job? I think is a very universal theme that I'm glad this
Yeah.
movie touched on.
Mhm.
But just from like a logistical, I was like, that makes sense that you would want to do that, or you would want to hire somebody to, I don't know, go to a concert with you or travel with you or whatever.
Yes.
That did make sense. My favorite sort of subplot in the film was actually when he was hired to be the journalist to go interview the dad with dementia. I love that. I kind of wanted more of that, to be honest with you.
Me too.
I just thought it was maybe because we're both journalists, but I just thought that was so interesting and like such a sweet thing to do for somebody to sort of make them feel important, or like give them the opportunity to talk about these memories that are slipping away. I thought that was just beautiful. And I don't know, I guess spoilers, but one of the sort of again things that took me out of the movie was when he's like takes this man on a trip, and then like he like correct, because it's been a while since I've seen it, but then he like leaves him and he wanders away. I forgot exactly how that happens, but I was like, again, in real life, like that would not happen. Like if you did theoretically pick up a man and take him on a trip, like you would be glued to that person, I'm assuming. Like you would never even let them wander 2 feet away from I don't know, Megan.
Yeah. So the first time is when they go to a restaurant together, and I think Philip is trying to kind of be like glued to him, and Kikyu, the older actor, he's like, aren't you gonna let me, who are you, my mom? I just have to go to the bathroom. And so he's like, oh, okay. And then he sneaks out afterwards because he forgets where he is, and so he just like walks out the restaurant. But then when they go on the trip together, yeah, I agree. I think you could make the argument that Philip is trying not to be too hovering because he is trying to acknowledge, well, this is an adult. He's not a child. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, but that's clearly a fundamental misunderstanding of dementia and the fact that, this man needs care. And so it's like, I understand from a certain perspective, it's like, he's should be afforded autonomy and independence, but at the same time, that's not safe, So I agree with you. Knowing what Philip knows, knowing that he has dementia and that his memory is going, absolutely. Wouldn't you stay right by his side in lockstep? And he's got to take like a phone call because I think it's Mia, or oh no, it's not Mia. It's the boss of the rental family agency. But it's like, I wouldn't take the call. I would just be like, nope. We got to be right side by side. So I agree with you on that.
Yeah, and it already happened once, to your point. So it's like, wouldn't you be extra vigilant? And like that seems also out of character because he is such a caring person. So it's like, why would you not be self-aware of that? Like, I don't know that. Again, I just felt like that wouldn't happen. Like, I understand the conceit of the rental family is already sort of outlandish, but then it just seemed like there were these moments that felt like that wouldn't actually be part of the thing. Like, it took me out of the movie a little bit.
Yeah, no, I completely understand what you're saying. I agree with you though that plot, that subplot is so good. Aside from the contrived elements of it, it's so good. It's so beautiful. I loved it. I agree with you. I kind of wish the whole movie had been that because it was
Mhm.
so good and so powerful. That scene where Kikyo is kind of snuck away and he goes to the tree, and it's this beautiful twisty tree, very old, and he touches it and says, "How are you? How have you been?" And I started breaking down there. I was like, "Oh my god, this is amazing." And then when he digs up that time capsule to see the photos and he tells Philip his story and he's crying, I just lost it. I was weeping uncontrollably. I'm like, this is beautiful. And then you have Brendan Fraser as Philip, just, holding him and sitting there in silence.
Mhm.
It's such a beautiful moment. It's lovely. It's incredible. I wish there was more of that because the two of them together were so great. And it also adds this other element because Philip is an actor and he's pretending to be a journalist. And here he is learning, in a way, life lessons, but also acting from this great retired actor. So it's kind of all of these meta things and about acting and performativity and life. And I loved it all. It was great. That whole part is
Completely
great.
agree. And correct me if I'm wrong. Well, because I feel like there are, this sort of found family trope and like a
Hmm.
found dad. We see that a lot. But
Yes.
like this sort of a storyline just felt so interesting and unique to me. I felt like I really wanted to see where it went. There were sort of other beats from the other plot lines where I could kind of see coming, but this one I really surprised me. So I don't know if anyone out there has like recommendations about movies about with people with dementia or so whatever, somebody pretending to be a journalist, whatever you want to label that plot. I loved it and I want more of it in any form that I can get.
Yeah, I was gonna say I haven't seen it, but I know people love Amour. Um, so there's that. Dealing with dementia, but I don't know about anybody pretending to be a journalist. That component of it I don't know, but yeah, that I absolutely love. But you're right, there are so many stories about found family, and that's funny that you brought that up because I was going to ask you, what do you think about the film's themes about family and found family and what it's saying about them?
What a good question, Megan. Wow.
Thank you.
Let's get deep. No, I thought it was really beautiful and it got to me. I lost my dad at a really young age, so these kinds
Oh,
of
I'm sorry.
plots like appealed to me. That's what
Mhm.
I was like, maybe I feel strongly because of my own personal experience. Maybe if you don't have that experience, it wouldn't be as like
Mhm.
but that's why I bought, like, I understood this little girl and the attachment that she feels to him. It did
Yes.
feel it felt real to me, or like it felt like I understand why somebody in that position would want to do that. And then I understand the Brendan Fraser thing of like he feels this like kinship to this little girl and he feels like I don't know, maybe I'm projecting, but if you're an actor and you're just doing all these sort of commercials and you feel like you've been given a role that can actually do something for someone,
Yes, make a
like,
difference. Yep.
make a difference. Like, I can understand why he wanted to maybe, like, go above and the beyond and, like, cross boundaries or whatever you wanna call it. Like,
Mhm.
it makes sense to me, so I don't know.
No, I agree, and I think there are these moments, you're right, that are very blurry ethically perhaps, but are these moments of connection, and I completely understand too why Mia is so attached to him, because he's taking an interest in her, and she's so desperate to have that paternal figure, and here's somebody who is nice and kind and taking an interest in her and asking
Mhm.
her questions. But also, on top of all that, he gives her her space and respects her boundaries. And he's there, but he's not pushy about it. Like, he's perfect. Like, he's kind of the perfect father in that moment for
Yeah.
who she is and what she needs. And so that's really that's really incredible to see. So I agree. I think that, it's funny. I talk about the journalism element, and I was like, I just want that storyline. But I really did love Philip and Mia together. I loved seeing them
Mhm.
together. I wanted more adventures with them because it was
Yeah.
really sweet.
I think you said that beautifully. And also it's like
Thank
that
you.
thing of sometimes people come into your life at the moment that you need them to, and that's what it
Yes.
felt like to me.
Yes.
And also when you're a kid, I think there's something really cool about somebody who kind of comes in and doesn't treat you as a kid. Like he's very like honest with her,
Mm-hmm.
like gives her space to communicate her feelings, like doesn't dumb anything down. Like he's just like, I'm here, I can like, whatever you need. And I think that like he kind of frees her in a way
Yes.
to allow herself to like feel these things that maybe she's been afraid to feel or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I just thought that was like really delicate, and I like movies like this that kind of put you in a position where you're like, what would I do if I was Philip? Like would
Mm-hmm.
I continue or would I walk away, or like would I like to think of myself as a very logical person, but then you're like, well, maybe I would let my emotions talk me into doing things that don't really make sense?
Yep, yep. I know. I was thinking about that too. And that scene where his agent calls and she's like, "Oh, you got the part and you just have to fly to Korea." And then he's like, "Oh God." And then like I feel so conflicted because I'm like, "You got to go after your dream." But then I'm like, "But you can't abandon Mia. What are you doing?"
Mhm.
And so I agree with you. I liked thinking about what would you do, and if you were in that situation. Absolutely. What do you think about some of the I thinking about family in the rental agency themselves, like the other workers, and how, spoiler alert, when Philip gets into some legal trouble, they band together and to help him out. And so I kind of love that they form kind of a little family as well, along with the familial connections that they're making with their clients. So what did you think about that?
Again, we come to the question of like, would that actually happen in real life? Like,
Yes.
I love the people that I work with. Would I want to break the law and potentially go to jail for them? I don't think so. Like, I'm just gonna be honest. Like, Megan, I really like you. You're wonderful. If you were like, hey, can we do this thing that's slightly illegal? I'd be like, I don't know.
You're like, I
Let
gotta peace out. I'm sorry.
yeah,
Bye.
let me think about it. I don't know. I would struggle with that decision. So I don't know if I like, again, that kind of took me out of the movie a little bit, but I thought,
Totally fair.
but the part that which like again, spoiler alert, we find out that his boss, like his family that he comes to every day is a
Yes.
rental family. Like
Yes.
that was maybe my favorite part of the movie, just because I feel like if this was truly just like a saccharine, like whatever film, it wouldn't do that. And I thought that that
Right.
was such an interesting twist of like, I don't, okay, let me backtrack a little bit, which I think we're living in this world right now that feels very curated. Again, maybe I'm projecting, but it's
No,
like,
I don't think you are.
what are the images that we're posting on Instagram? Like, everyone wants to have sort of this picture perfect life, whatever that looks like to them. And
Mhm.
that's what this man is doing. And then you find out like it's not real. I thought was just so beautiful. And this idea of like everyone has maybe these ghosts or these things that they were struggling with, and we don't know that. And so like
Yes.
it kind of recontextualizes everything you saw in the movie of like the way that he's fighting for his agency and like
Mhm.
how he treats his job. Yeah, I thought that was just so interesting, and I love that Hikari did that. I thought that was so cool.
I completely agree with you. You said that perfectly. I love that. I love that scene too. I love that we also don't really, I mean, we can speculate, but we don't really know the depth of why he has hired them. And it's not like there's some long speech that he's giving to his employees where he's explaining it. Like, I love that we have that moment, we have that reveal of the truth, and that's it. I think that is such a powerful moment. It's so poignant. It's great. I completely agree with you. It's a beautiful moment. It works great. And you're right. It does recontextualize everything. It makes you rethink, like, oh, is this why he's getting so angry at Philip for not listening to the clients? And I mean, part of it is, of course, he wants to retain his business and he has to have their interests as well as his employees. But then it's like, oh, is it also because he's thinking about his own vested interest in hiring
Right.
people to stand in? Yeah. So, yeah, it's wild. Yeah, that is such a great scene. I really love that. And and I think that's what this film does really well is those little moments that just these like small touches that aren't really small. But thinking about that, thinking about the artifice, the performativity, the curation as you're talking about, and then you have kind of that tension between the fake as well as these very real human emotions and connections. And I feel like the film, and Hikari is posting this through the film, this posing this question: what matters more, the truth or the lie that maybe gets to a deeper truth, a truth about humanity?
Mhm.
What do you think? Because I'm still thinking about it. I don't know. I'm
Yeah, you stumped me there. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
right.
I think you're right that like sometimes I mean it's kind of like the fake it till you make it thing of like
Yeah.
sometimes if you just put yourself in a position and you go through it, you do learn through
Hmm.
that. And I think that's what we saw in the movie of like all of these characters in some way are like better than they were before, even if they had to kind of get hurt a little bit to get there.
Yep.
Which is really interesting. But that kind of goes back to your previous point, which is like when we learn sort of the truth about the boss. What I really liked about the way that plot line was handled was like it didn't beat you over the head, but
Yes.
then maybe like this idea of like, well, what are the real things in life? Like maybe that is part of the film that's a little bit heavy-handed, where I'm like, we're already picking up on these messages without
Hmm.
needing to be like spoon-fed a little bit, or again, this question of like work-life balance and like you know we are very much as a society like a work society, so like I feel like we could already pick up on that and we don't need that to be as heavy-handed. So I don't know, what do you
Hmm.
think?
Yeah, no, I think you're right about that. And it's something, I asked the question. I'm still thinking about it too, because and thinking about the work angle, I am someone who used to hustle all the time and I don't anymore. And I'm now just like, nope, I'm, you know, just not what I want to do, not how I want to live my life. And I very much try to resist the performativity of curation and of FOMO, although that's so hard. It feels sometimes impossible to not want what everyone else is having. But at the same time, I feel like you have to remember that people are only most people are only showing their best days, the best moments of their days. They're not showing all of the struggles that they're having. Um, so yeah, and then thinking about what you're saying about the film, and spoon feeding, like, yeah, it definitely does not need to do that. I think there's so many scenes and moments and that do that really well, that illustrate that really well and explore that. I don't know if you need to have all of it. Um, but yeah, but I do think about this question a lot, and I've been thinking about it. I've been ruminating on it since seeing this. Like, what matters more, the truth or the deeper truth? So
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I think, I'm ruminating on it now because we're talking about it. But for me, like leaving the film, the moments that stayed with me were
Mhm.
the quieter ones. And like
Yes.
the things that made me think the most, like, were sort of these quieter, like, show don't tell moments. And like,
Mhm.
I guess one of the things that frustrated me was like, I feel like, oh, this movie wants me to ask myself these big questions or like wants me to think about those things, but that's not where my heart and my mind wanted to go. I wanted to focus on these sort of smaller things. And so, like, maybe I don't want to say a knock on the movie, but like, I don't think it did what it wanted me to do, I guess. Does that make sense? Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
No, I think it makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. Because if you're thinking about these, if you think from an intellectual standpoint that you're supposed to be thinking about these questions, but you're not really thinking about these questions because you're feeling these other things kind of over here, yeah, then there definitely is a disconnect, you know? So yeah, no, I think I had a different experience, but no, I think that absolutely 100% makes sense. That definitely makes sense. So yeah.
Yeah, no, and there's a lot of people that I think had your experience, and I think that that's, I don't know if maybe I'm a robot or whatever, but
I don't think so.
no. But I think yeah, I think it's just like when it's a kind of movie that's like feel this, feel this, feel this. Sometimes I'm like it turns me off a little bit.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah. The like stubborn part of my brain comes out where I'm like, stop, telling me that I need to feel this. Like, show me the connection.
Show
Like,
me,
show me
yeah.
the beautiful small moments, and I will get there on my own.
Yeah, I don't need you holding my hand or manipulating me into feeling
Right.
it.
Yeah, and I think, but that's my whole like struggle with this movie is like, does the film do that too much? Like, there are moments where it does it, sure, but
Mhm.
what do you think? Do you think it finds the right balance or not?
Yeah,
Like,
it's
I'm really struggling with this question. That's why I can't decide how I feel about the movie overall, because I can't decide, like, is it pushing too hard or not?
yeah, no, I think you're spot on. I feel like I'm in a similar position because even though certain moments or certain scenes or certain aspects maybe worked better for me, I keep coming up against that. And I don't know if it is a flaw or an issue with the film itself, or if it's an issue with me because I'm someone who is very honest and like to a fault. And so the kind of fakeness of it maybe rubs me personally the wrong way, or maybe it's the way the film is handling this, maybe because there are moments of dialogue that are kind of, you could say, are beating you over the head with it, which we've been talking about. So I don't know if it's a flaw with me in, or not necessarily a flaw with me, but in the way I am as a person, in the way I'm watching the movie, or is it an issue with the film itself? I'm not sure. And it is something I'm grappling with. And but then at the same time I'm thinking maybe the film wants you to grapple with that, or maybe it doesn't, and I just happened to be wrestling with this on my own. And isn't that kind of a cool thing that I just had this on my own?
Yeah.
I don't know. So yeah, but I think, but I'm also okay with films that raise complicated, thorny questions and don't answer them. So yeah, I'm not sure if that was Hikari's intention to raise that question. I don't know if it was kind of more about the state of loneliness and kind of how we need each other, and how those connections are so important. But yeah, but I think there's so many different characters and so many issues happening in this film. For me, it was hard to not see kind of all of these other elements.
Right.
But
Yeah. Well, let me pose the question, which is that, I said this is the very much the kind of film that like could be made 30 years ago. Do
mhm.
you think that our tastes as like a film culture have sort of moved away from these more like, you called it saccharine, but like our storytelling has shifted a little bit. It has become a little bit more subtle, right? And so maybe like that's part of the problem is like we're not used, like we've moved away from films like this. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I do. Yeah, yeah. I know, I do know what you mean. And I think it depends maybe on the audience, because I think there are some people who don't respond or enjoy subtle filmmaking. But I think if you're someone who watches an exorbitant amount of films like we do, I think, sometimes you crave more subtlety. But then on the other hand, I don't know, sometimes it's the bombastic and the really bold films that resonate as well. So, I don't know, maybe it's I'm not, yeah, it's something I'm still mulling over. I'm just not sure. So you might be right. What do you think? I was like, it's such a
well,
great question. What do you think?
I was hoping you would answer it.
Oh no! Oh no, I know. I did.
Yeah.
I was zero help at all. Yeah. No, but I mean, I do think there's something to be said that tastes do change as a collective, and filmmaking styles change. You're absolutely right. So I think there is something to that. But yeah, but maybe it's because maybe we're struggling with this because it's not subtle in the ways that very subtle films are. Um, like I'm thinking of like a Kelly Reichardt film or
Mhm.
like Rebuilding this year from Max Walker Silverman. And although the ending of that is not subtle, but a lot of the other moments of it are subtle. So maybe because it's not subtle enough in those ways, but it's also not a very bold melodramatic film in other ways that work for those kinds of films. So maybe because it's in this mid
Middle.
area.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
maybe that's the issue. And you're right. Maybe that would have, 30 years ago, that would have resonated more than maybe it would now. But at the same time, I mean, this is, been critically acclaimed. It's gotten rave reviews. So it is clearly working, for people.
Yeah, I think maybe the approach to this film is like not to think about it in more just like watch it as like more of a straightforward story. You know what I mean? And I
Mhm.
don't mean that as a knock to the film at all, but I think those were the moments where I enjoyed it more. It was like, okay, I'm just gonna give myself over to this premise and I'm
Yep.
gonna let it be what it wants to be. And then I ended up like ultimately as a whole enjoying it. That's
Mhm.
what I meant at the beginning, where it's like if I really wanted to pick this film apart, I could, but I just don't want to because ultimately it did feel like a comforting watch. And
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
I think it's the kind of film like as we head into the holiday season, like you could just watch it with your family and maybe it would lead to really interesting discussions. And again, not a knock on the film, but like, my mom I'm sure will be obsessed with this movie. Like, and that's great. But yeah.
I mean, it's a sweet film. It is,
Yeah.
yeah, there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with being obsessed with it. It's a sweet, lovely film. It's got, we keep talking about all of the, there are some issues, as there are with most, if not all films. You're right. When you deconstruct it enough, when you critique it enough, you can find things anywhere. But it's a lovely film. It's really beautiful. It's telling beautiful stories. There, there are great actors in this. And there are vivid colors, so it's visually striking in certain moments. It's got these really tender humanistic moments, and it's got good acting. So it is, I would say it's a good film. But yeah, but there may be some issues if you dig
Yeah.
deeper.
I think what I would say is it's the kind of film where I don't think you would like actively dislike it, right? Like I don't think it would be a situation where you're like I have to turn this off. I think if you
I
put
hate
it
it.
right, no, I think if you put it on like it's either you'll love it or you'll be like this was pleasant. This was fine,
Mhm.
right? Like it's a very inoffensive film in my opinion. But I think you just have to know like yeah, it is a little heavy-handed. It is a little old-fashioned and that's okay. But like
Yeah.
if those kinds of movies like offend you or if you're like a strict cinephile of like I want to be challenged, I want to whatever, then like maybe this isn't for you. But if you're
Mhm.
just looking for something like sweet and nice and like, that transports you to a different culture, I think
Mhm.
this film does all of that.
Mhm. No, I completely agree with you, and I think there are moving stories here, and I think there are moving character moments that I think are, it's an enjoyable watch, as well as one that does feel comforting and made me sad. Really
Yeah.
sad, like, thinking about that scene, the journalism subplot. Oh, I'm gonna be thinking about that one for a while.
Yeah,
That's a good
rental
one.
family will make you feel things. So if you if you don't want to feel things, watch something else, and that's okay. But like
That's
you
true.
gotta go into it knowing that like you're gonna feel some stuff, and
Yep.
yeah,
You might be thinking about your own stuff, you might be thinking about other people's stuff, but you will
yeah,
be feeling some
yeah,
stuff and thinking about some stuff,
yeah.
yes. Do you have
Emotions
Oh,
will
yes.
happen.
They
Yeah,
will, they will surface.
yeah.
Do you have any other thoughts? Anything else that you think we should talk about with this?
Just that I'm really interested in Hikari as a filmmaker. She seems
Mhm.
like so interested in the human experience and
Yes.
like the subtleties of the human experience. And one thing that I did really like is that I feel like I understand the motivations of every single character, even if I don't agree with them. Like, I felt like
Yes.
all of the characters had a moment where they were fleshed out a little bit. Like, the boss could have just been the boss, right? Like, we didn't need any of that extra stuff, but we got it anyway. And like, I did criticize the mom a little bit, but I also understand her motivations. Like, I totally understand, like, she wants what's best for her daughter, and as
Yeah.
misguided as it is, like, she thinks that this is the right way to do it. And then she does realize, like, okay, maybe I need to see things from my daughter's perspective. That felt very, like, real. And like, again, maybe if I was a single mom, I would have done the same thing. I don't know. I just felt like that was so, and again, to go to the journalism storyline, like, I completely understand, like, this daughter who she sort of does this for her dad, as she, and she thinks like this is this gift that she could give him. And yeah,
Right.
she is a bit uptight, but it's just because she's worried about her dad and she doesn't want him to get hurt. Like, that felt so real and human to me. So I like that there were these like moments of nuance and complexity, and like all of these people felt like real people that you would meet in this type of a scenario. And so I thought that that was really well done. So I'm interested in, yeah, like, does Hikari like make more films like this? Does she sort of pivot to something else? And then, yeah, Brendan Fraser, like, I think he's gonna do like an Eisenhower biopic. I think like he has some interesting things kind of coming down the pipeline. So I'll be interested to see like what kind of things is he embracing now that he has this sort of newfound cachet in the industry.
That is interesting. I may be conflating this with another filmmaker, but I think I read that Hikari is working on a female samurai project. Which, if that's the case, I'm in. I'm intrigued. I want to see that. So I think I read that. But anyway, but yeah, I'm very curious what she does next too. And I just found this. I keep using the word lovely. I think this is a lovely film. I think it was very sweet, very kind, very very optimistic about humanity, which I think in these dire times we could use maybe some, optimism and connection. And yeah, I think that's a beautiful message to take away
Yeah,
from watching this. So
I'm so glad you said that, Megan. That was one of the things that when I was leaving the theater, that's sort of what I thought about, because like I think sometimes I can be a little bit cynical. And so there was a part of me that was like, no, like people can be lovely, and you can like meet somebody that you feel connected to that's a total stranger. I think that's really beautiful. And like,
yeah.
because we are sort of in these sort of very like isolated, we're all living our own lives. And so there is something really
Yep.
beautiful about being like, you can find a connection with this old man or, this young girl. And like, there's something deeply human about that. I think that's what I keep coming back to. I think there's a lot of humanity in this film.
Yes.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
one more thing, being that I am the awards editor at In Session Film, when I saw Rental Family at TIFF, they were saying like, oh, this is the front runner for the People's Choice Prize there. And it didn't end up, placing there. And so then there was all this conversation about awards and this and that. Didn't get any Golden Globes nominations. So I just want to say, I do love award season. It's my favorite thing. I'm a total nerd. But this is like the perfect example of sometimes movies don't get nominations, and that doesn't mean like you should still check them out, and it shouldn't impact the way that you feel about a film. And so I hope this is one that people discover, like I said, through the holidays or just as time goes on. And I do think it's going to become like maybe a little bit of a cult film, or maybe just something that people put on when they want something comforting. Yeah.
Here. Well said. Well said about does not necessarily mean it's not a worthy film. I agree with
Yeah.
you. I am kind of loosely surprised that let me get that Akira Emoto, who plays the retired actor, I'm slightly surprised maybe that he didn't get a nomination, only because because he's an established actor. He's been in numerous films and he was just so good. But maybe that's just me being selfish. This is the reason I don't predict awards, because I just think about what I selfishly want to win and have acknowledged. But yeah, yeah. Now I'm telling you, now I'm thinking about that scene again, and it's probably gonna make me cry all over again later. But I won't cry here. I won't.
No,
do that.
Megan, this is a safe space. Any time, like you could just be like, Shadan, I need to cry, and I'll be like, I'll come on StreamYard with you, and you can.
Oh,
I'll
I love that.
I'll be here to like hold your hand from a distance. And, like,
virtually, I love
yeah.
that.
So anytime.
It's kind of like that, although they weren't virtual, but it's kind of like the client that Philip has that like wants somebody to play video games with him. I'm like, that's so sweet. I love that.
Yeah, I'll be your virtual crying buddy. Like, that's I think that's anytime. Yeah.
I love that. That's I think that's a perfect way to end this too, to end this conversation. And we need more virtual crying buddies.
Yeah.
I love that you'll be mine.
1,000%.
I love it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So let us know if you agree or disagree with us about Rental Family, and leave us a comment and reach out to us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, and TikTok. You can email us at insessionfilm@gmail.com. Be sure to subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and or YouTube. And stay tuned. Brendan and JD will be back for In Session's next podcast. Be sure to listen to their latest reviews on The Mastermind and Jay Kelly. The main show episode, they did one on George Clooney Draft, and then they just dropped one on Golden Globe reactions. And then I know, Shadan, you also talked about Golden Globe nominations at Chasing the Gold. Anything you want to share with us there?
I don't know. It's we're definitely like in the swing of award season, so make sure to subscribe to the podcast, YouTube. There's a lot of content coming, a lot of really interesting writing, interviews happening. So a lot of film talk, and just in general, if I can just say, like, it's it's like sort of end of the year movie season. So again, whether these are like awards titles or not, there's just a lot of really good movies. And movies are expensive, going to the theater is expensive, but I would encourage you, if you can, to get out there and see some of these. I think there's something for everyone out right now. So yeah, just go to the movie theater and engage with some of these films. Let them wash over you. Yeah.
Agree. Could not agree more. And then on top of all that, be sure to also check out Women in Session, where we recently discussed women directors. So I feel like Rental Family, this conversation it fits really perfectly with all the things we were talking about over there. So yes, so subscribe to us all over the place. Listen, watch all of the things. I'm Megan Kearns. And Shadan, where can people find you other than, of course, at Chasing the Gold? Where can people find you?
I am at Shadan Larkey everywhere. The beauty of having a weird name is I can get whatever social media handle I want. So I'm easy. I'm easy to find. There's only one of me, so yeah, at Shadan Larkey.
I was gonna say, well, there's only one of you just because you're awesome, but also your name. That's perfect.
Yeah.
I'll take it. That must be a great feeling, though, that you're like, I know I'm going to be able to get my name. That's nice.
I mean, listen, Megan, I've had my name mispronounced my entire life. The playground wasn't always, but if it meant to, and if it led to this, of like, I can get whatever social media, I'll take it. You win some, you lose some, but.
That is true. Oh,
yeah.
And on that note, thank you so much for listening to the In Session Film Podcast.